close your eyes. You're standing at the corner of Broadway and 14th Street in the summer of 1893. The sound hits you first, an endless clatter of iron hooves against stone, the sharp creak of wooden wheels, drivers shouting, "Move along!" in thick accents. The air is alive with motion. Horses snort, whip cracks echo, and bells from streetcars jingle somewhere up the block. The smell? It's overwhelming, a mix of manure, smoke, sweat, and sea salt drifting from the East River. Welcome to New York before the automobile, a city where more than 100,000 horses work the streets every day, pulling carriages, omnibuses, drays, fire wagons, milk carts, and hearses. To ride through it was to experience a symphony of chaos, an urban heartbeat powered not by engines, but by muscle. This was New York in the 1990s, loud, crowded, alive, and on the edge of collapse. By the 1890s, New York was the largest city in America. Nearly 1.8 million people packed into Manhattan alone. Every barrel of beer, every loaf of bread, every crate of coal or ice had to be hauled by horse. If you wanted to travel uptown, you hailed a hansom cab, sleek and two-wheeled, with the driver perched behind you like a silent guardian. If you were a family or a group, you might climb aboard an omnibus, a lumbering rectangular wagon with benches inside and horses sweating at the front. And if you needed to move faster, there were horse-drawn streetcars running on iron rails, ringing their bells as they rolled down Fifth Avenue or the Bowery. At rush hour, the streets of Lower Manhattan looked like an ocean made of hide and wood. Horses shoulder to shoulder, heads tossing, nostrils steaming. Policemen waved batons to clear crossings, but the city never truly flowed. It churned like a living organism. To keep New York moving, the city depended on horses, the way modern cities depend on electricity. There were roughly 130,000 horses within the 5 boroughs by the end of the century. Each animal produced 20 to 25 pounds of manure and several quarts of urine daily. That meant over 2.5 million pounds of waste every day. A literal mountain of filth steaming on every curb. The city hired whole crews to shovel the streets, but it was a losing battle. When it rained, the manure turned to ground sludge that splashed pedestrians and filled basements. When it dried, it became dust, choking the air, covering clothing, settling inside homes. And there was death. Exhausted horses collapsed by the dozens each day, their carcasses left where they fell, until scavengers or city crews dragged them away. Children grew used to the sight of dead horses swelling in the sun, carts detouring around them as flies gathered in clouds. It's hard to imagine now, but for many New Yorkers, the city smelled perpetually of decomposition. Progress had a stench.
So what was it like to actually ride through this world? If you stepped into a hansom cab, you'd hear the rhythmic thud of hooves and feel every cobblestone beneath you. The wheels rattled like drum beats, dust swirled in your face. You'd clutch a hat against the wind as the driver urged the horse faster, weaving between omnibuses, dodging pedestrians, shouting curses in Irish or German. Inside an omnibus, you'd share space with butchers, clerks, seamstresses, and perhaps a banker or two. The benches creaked, the horses snorted, and each stop brought a blast of heat, noise, and city odor. No one spoke much. They just endured. The rich had options. The private carriage, polished black with brass trim and leather seats that smelled of wealth. But even the wealthy couldn't escape the noise or the stench. Fifth Avenue was lined with manure just like every other street. At night, gas lamps flickered against wet cobblestones. Hooves struck sparks. The air grew heavy with fog and smoke. It was mesmerizing and miserable all at once, a strange beauty hidden beneath the grime. Riding through New York wasn't just dirty, it was dangerous. Accidents were constant. Horses panicked easily. A sudden noise, a flash of lightning, or a dropped umbrella could send a team bolting into traffic. In 1893 alone, over 1,000 people were killed in horse-related accidents in Manhattan. Runaway teams smashed into storefronts, overturned carriages, or trampled pedestrians. Drivers, often underpaid immigrants, worked brutal hours and took risks to earn an extra fare. And then there were the diseases, glanders, tetanus, anthrax, all spread through the horse population and sometimes to humans. The city stank not just of manure, but of sickness. Even veterinarians warned the streets themselves have become laboratories of infection. Still, people rode every day because there was no choice. The city moved on horsepower, and without it, everything stopped.
Behind every carriage or wagon was a human story, usually of labor and endurance. There were stable boys who slept beside the animals, waking at dawn to brush their coats and haul feed. Teamsters who guided the massive drays through narrow streets, often covered head to toe in dust. And conductors who collected fares on the streetcars, balancing as the vehicle rocked and lurched. Many of these workers were Irish, Italian, or African American, earning just enough to eat. The horses were their partners, and their fate often mirrored them, overworked, underpaid, and invisible. At night, the stables of Hell's Kitchen and the Bowery echoed with the restless sounds of hundreds of animals shifting in straw. The smell of hay, sweat, and ammonia clung to every worker's clothes. And yet, despite the hardship, there was pride, a sense of purpose in keeping the city alive. Without these men and their horses, New York would have simply stopped breathing.
By the late 1890s, the cracks in the horse-powered system were showing. Editorials warned of an urban manure crisis. Scientists predicted that within 50 years, Manhattan streets would be buried under 9 feet of horse waste. The city was desperate for change. In 1897, electric streetcars began replacing horse lines. The difference was immediate: faster, cleaner, quieter. Within a decade, the horses that once defined New York began to vanish. By 1912, the great stables of the city stood empty, their haylofts converted into garages. But in the 1890s, that future was only a whisper. For those who lived it, the horse remained king, stubborn, loyal, and doomed to fade.
Imagine yourself again on that street corner in 1893. The thunder of hooves rises and falls like a heartbeat. The carriages move in endless waves, the city breathing, sweating, shouting, living. It's loud, filthy, and magnificent. No one then could imagine a New York without horses, but within a generation they'd be gone, replaced by engines and steel. And yet, if you listen closely in the quiet of Central Park, or watch an old film flicker across the screen, you can almost hear it, the echo of hooves on cobblestone fading into history. New York was built on that sound, and for one brief, chaotic moment in the 1890s, the entire city moved to its rhythm. If you could take one ride through 1890s New York, just for a day, would you? Tell us in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video to keep exploring the streets, stories, and forgotten sounds of good old New York. We bring history back to life, one cobblestone at a time.